Hi, my name is Jim Kleinschmidt. I'm the CEO and founder of Other Half Processing. It's an honor to be here as part of this panel at Impact Unleashed 2020 to share the other half path for traceability for regenerative byproducts. First of all, why does regenerative matter and what is it? Regenerative farming systems, simply put, focus on the soil. In doing that, what we're doing with our practices are improving soil quality, including soil carbon, which results in better fertility, better water holding capacity, which helps in times of drought and heavy rains, better biodiversity and wildlife habitat, and what most people are really focusing on, the ability to actually draw down carbon from the atmosphere to even help reverse climate change. Now, regenerative cattle production is one of the ways you can do that. There are other cropping systems as well. But cattle grazing in a managed way on grass that mimics nature is a way to actually promote much greater soil carbon drawdown, because what you're doing is moving them, having them graze heavily, and then giving that grass space for growth and recovery. And in the process, the soil carbon is pulled. This carbon is pulled from the soil or from the atmosphere down into the soil, building soil carbon for all the benefits we talk about. Now, while that's an amazing thing, it's one of the things we have to really focus on and is a priority within agriculture today, there hasn't been a regenerative byproduct sector. And that's really kind of a surprise, because regenerative and organic are among the highest growth and value segments in the marketplace. Yet this byproduct supply just hasn't existed. Neither has the network to supply it. And without this market, producer profitability, full animal utilization and valuation, and consumer benefits from regenerative agriculture are limited. So my brother and I decided to found this company, Other Half Processing, as a specific benefit corporation to fulfill that need. This is something that not just comes from our hearts, but comes from our background. We were raised on a farm in Northeast Nebraska by our parents, Martin and Linda Kleinschmidt, and they were early leaders in regenerative and in value-added agriculture in our region. And so for us, this is carrying forward the family business. And we specifically created this business with a mission to create high value and high quality products in ways that are ethical and respectful to the animal and support regenerative farmers, ranchers, and agricultural systems. So how do you get to traceability? There's a lot of challenges in byproducts and other things. For us, we break it down into three categories. First of all, it's that question of attribute verification. If what you're looking for is something that is certified regenerative, organic, or other kinds of higher attribute claims, you need to have assurance of the specified production certifications that are connected to that byproduct supply. And that's not necessarily as easy to see or to find as it is with meat and milk and eggs, the things most common in the market. Physically, segregation is a big reason for that. We don't segregate these products, these byproducts, at the slaughter plants. And there's a lot of reasons for it. Some is just inertia. People don't want to do a different thing than they're already doing without a good reward. Infrastructure challenges, they may not have places to put that other stuff, literally. And then, just the idea that it actually disrupts their production system, processing system, which is pretty refined, and all of that in return for unknown or small immediate financial gains. At the end of the day, there's also a question of efficiency of collection, storage, and transport. And this especially comes into play with these smaller plants that tend to process regenerative, organic livestock. The third piece, of course, is critical, is the actual ID preservation process. And that's the tracking tools for how we follow those products all the way from farm to the end product that you're trying to put it into. And you need both tools for doing that, and which is harder to find with these lower value materials that come from the byproducts from an animal. But it's also difficult because of documentation difficulties back to the farm of origin with how our agricultural system has been set up. So OHP was lucky to get started with this with a great partner in Timberland. We worked from the beginning with hides for their leather supply. And that is because Timberland has made a commitment to sourcing actually 100% of their leather as regenerative by 2030. They helped us get this program going, and in the process, helped us to actually establish a national supply network for regenerative byproducts, starting with the hides. So we're very proud to be their sourcing partner for the regenerative leather program. I'm going to use that as the example for how we work through these details. So first of all, attribute verification. OHP works with Timberland and its consultants to actually create a sourcing specification for its regenerative leather program based on both Timberland's goals for regenerative and then, most importantly, on existing market certifications and tools that are already out there. Next, or I guess simultaneously, OHP works with the regenerative farmers, ranchers, producers to actually have them review that sourcing spec to make sure we've got feedback from people on the ground about how it can work with their existing production protocols, verifications, and so on, because we're not trying to create extra work. And then also, we work with those ranchers and producers who we knew to help us identify and recruit additional producers, cooperatives, meat companies that would be able to meet this specification for hides. Finally, we actually worked with the agricultural certification entities that do all these certifications out there around regenerative, grass-fed, and so on, to ensure that the specs that Timberland are wanting are covered in their criteria and auditing or lacking and brought in, and then also giving a chance to expand producer verification options to other certification systems, that meaning we're trying to get as many of these certification systems to work for the specification as can credibly. Outcome, we've been able to come up with a consistent and expanding verified regenerative byproduct supply of leather, of hides in this case. Next, segregation. This is where we work with our processor plant partners to identify and implement the most cost-effective segregation options for their specific plant, footprint, and system. Part of that is just technical assistance. Some of that's walking them through the pieces. But a big part is actually making it worth their while, which means providing those processors with premium pricing for the byproducts. The outcome is we actually get physically segregated regenerative byproducts where we need them so we can keep them separate and market them appropriately. Finally, it's the ID preservation tools. What we do in this case is OHP actually works with producer partners to share details on processing location, date, cattle ID, number of head, all of those defining information so we can trace it. And then, importantly, both for this traceability and for our business needs, OHP makes, our mission is we actually make a direct payment back to that producer for that farm traceable information. So we make a direct producer payment based out of this to them, and in return, we get that trackable information to the farm. OHP takes that documentation of segregated hides. We align that with our information we receive from our processing plant and hide collection partners to make sure we've got the hides we're supposed to have in our truck, and then we transport those ID preserved hides to a tannery. Outcome, we provide direct economic benefit to regenerative producers and traceability field to foot for Timberland. So here's how the system works as it looks. As it shows, we actually go and collect those hides through transport, but in the process, we are providing income back to the regenerative farmer ranchers and to the processors for the product and for that traceability. And that's really how we've been able to make it work for Timberland. We look to do the same thing as we go forward. OHP wants to work with all regenerative farmers, ranchers, and communities to help value add the other half of their livestock. How we want to do that? Well, we want to expand partnerships, markets, and verification traceability beyond hides to the other materials in the other half for ingredients in food, in pet food, pet treats, so on, pharmaceuticals, etc. But beyond that, we also want to work on the leather space even further, be able to grow product offerings beyond beef to other hides and other types of leather, and then also to expand that supply base so we can bring in more and more producers who are doing the right thing out of the land. I really appreciate the time, and I look forward to having questions with you all during the follow-up panel. Again, thank you much.